I wanted to talk about LA again for a couple of minutes. Man,
It's so heartbreaking.
oh my God, the videos, you guys. So I grew up in San Diego, and in California, there is Pacific Coast Highway, which goes all the way from San Diego to San Francisco. It's one of the most beautiful drives in the country. And on Pacific Coast Highway, it takes you so close to the coast in Malibu, right? Which is right next to Pacific Palisades. And for a guy that loves looking at the beach, it was always frustrating for me driving through Malibu on Pacific Coast Highway because they were all of these homes that were blocking the ocean and blocking the beach view. You couldn't see them because all the Richies had those houses, right? So yesterday, as I am watching video after video after video, you can see the ocean now. You can see the beach now from Pacific Coast Highway because every one of those beachfront homes, Paris Hilton, all the other Richies too, that have all their memories in there, all of their photos in there,
Keepsakes.
their keepsakes, all of them completely and totally gone. And from a guy that grew up in California who is used to brush fires, I have never in my life seen a home on the beach burn to the ground. And now it's the entire community.
I mean, literally just cinders and ash and nothing else. This was something small, but was so impactful to see. And, you know, God bless the firefighters that are out there working so hard to try to save what they can. And also those, like watching some of the airplanes come through and do the water dumps and trying again to save what they can. There was something that I saw, firefighters were removing photo albums from a home, trying to save what they can, and taking out a grandfather clock that they knew looked like it was an heirloom of some sort, just trying to salvage something for these people for when they go back and they see everything's gone, but at least there's their wedding album.
Cats, too. I saw a couple firefighters save a couple pets, and it was like that was all that they were able to salvage. And you can see people just coming to terms with losing absolutely everything but one pet. And I also saw a lot of youth that they were saying in the communities that were going into the homes trying to get like the last of what people couldn't get inside their homes. Too,
is that right?
To help out.
The water dump must have happened later on in the day when the conditions changed, because this really is such a this is the perfect storm, quote unquote, in that you have 5 different fires going on at the same time. And there are a whole bunch of reasons why it's out of control. One of them is because the Santa Ana winds, which are really high powered winds, were up to 100 miles an hour. And at least initially, they couldn't fly those helicopters and planes over the fires, which they normally would do because the conditions were so bad.
The good
so
news
that must have changed.
Oh, yeah, they are now, because I saw there was a news report and they were filming an area and they were talking about it. And as they were talking about it, a plane flew over and did a water dump, and it took out the whole thing. It was like like the most perfect water dump. So in case you're like unfamiliar, so yeah, like Bert said, there's actually 5 different fires. The largest is the Palisades fire and the Eaton fire. And then there are 3 other fires called Kenneth, Hurst, and Lydia. 10 people have now died due to the various wildfires. And obviously, like, so many people have been evacuated and lost their homes. Now, I debated whether or not to bring this up, but I still think it's important because I know now, maybe now's the time to talk about it or not, but climate change has been a big topic of conversation. And then there are some people that are saying, no, there's people who are starting fires. And there was a man who was arrested for starting one of the fires. The Kenneth fire apparently was started by a man who was walking around with a blowtorch and lighting up like old Christmas trees and bins and things like that. People saw him. They jumped on him, held him until the police came and arrested him. But I think that is somebody who is messed up and just trying to cause damage, whereas the Palisades, I'm one of those people that believes we're looking at climate change and we're looking at our earth crumble right before our eyes.
Yeah, and I mean, for those 2 who are like, oh, it's an arsonist, well, we wouldn't have had such widespread fires if the trees and vegetation weren't so dry because of climate change.
Yeah.
And then you've also got to add it to that, the LA Fire Department just had their budget cut by $17 million. And not a month ago, the chief of the fire department wrote a memo to the government being like, this is going to hamper emergency response efforts. We are not able to train our people properly. We will not be able to respond in a disaster properly. And a month later, this is what happens. So, I mean, we got to listen to our leaders, too, when they're telling us we need more funds in order to keep people safe.
You know, as I'm saying, it's kind of the perfect storm also in that the water air pressure. There have been problems with the water pressure also, just by design more than anything else, which they were warned about also. And you also have to keep this in mind, that a lot of those homes, as big as they are, and maybe there's a lot of attitude like, well, they're just rich homes, they could just go ahead and rebuild them. They all had insurance, right? Well, a lot, 74% of the homes in that area had their insurance cut over the last couple of months, because the insurance companies now have taken a look at different weather conditions and global change and said, look, this is not good for business right here. I mean, chances are really good that these houses are going to burn to the ground, so we're going to pull our insurance now. So 74% of those homes aren't even insured.
Jeez.
It's like when you live in a floodplain, they're not going to give you flood insurance. And apparently these insurance companies looked at, like, no, wildfires are very likely, so we're not going to give you fire insurance.
I just want to share this really quickly because it hit home with me, and based on what Kristen was saying about climate change and just some food for thought. It's a quote, and I don't know who to attribute it to, but it's going around, and it says, climate change will manifest as a series of disasters viewed through phones with footage that gets closer and closer to where you live until you're the one filming it.
Man. This isn't a rich person issue here. I have seen this quite a bit, that people don't have nearly as much empathy, because those houses on the beach that I were talking about are going to be rebuilt by the rich people. So I really see like this callousness, because you have to remember it's more than just a money issue here. And like you're saying, we're talking about dogs. You're talking about the staffs also of some of these big ass homes too that now don't have jobs.
There are schools that have burned down. There are restaurants and family-owned businesses that have burned down. Like, this is so widespread. And if that's what you want to focus on, is like, oh, Paris Hilton, she's got plenty of money, she can rebuild. Yeah, there's some celebrities, but also, like you were talking, there was a nursing home that had to get evacuated. So now we have all these elderly people that have nowhere. I think people like to focus on one little thing so they don't have to address the big issue, because it's easier to dismiss what's going on by justifying, oh, well, they're rich, they'll rebuild.
If you want to see an amazing example of perspective, I don't even follow him. It just came up on my algorithm yesterday. You guys know who Rainn Wilson is?
Yes. From The Office, Dwight.
Yeah, that's right. Dwight from The Office, right? What a beautiful perspective. A video that he shot yesterday as he is going through his charred home. There is nothing left. But with his heart and soul, he is talking about the memories that he has lost, but also the perspective that he has now. And he asked for a bunch of his followers to give him perspective on what this means to them, or what it should mean to him to get this kind of perspective. And I can't quote the things he was saying, but I was so touched. I mean, here is a guy that has completely and totally lost everything. Yes, he makes a whole bunch of money, but was looking at it like Cassie was saying the other day, like a phoenix. Like, my house is burned to the ground. It's gone. But it's also an opportunity for a new life. And to do that in the heat, literally the heat that is still coming off the ground, check him out on Instagram. It's really worth a watch.
Be remiss if I didn't mention this, and this is something small and superficial in regards to the LA fires, but to all the influencers that are standing on rooftops or standing on the side of the highway and doing videos and dances with the blazes behind you, go to therapy.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I follow influencers in the wild, and they have Influencers in the Wild. It has been nonstop. There was like a woman on a rooftop. Somebody's filming her and she's doing this dance with the smoke and fire behind her. There was a dude on the side of the road and somebody was filming him doing all this stuff or whatever. And I'm like, that is so gross. You are so tone deaf. What is wrong with you?
Yeah, after you watch those videos, watch a couple of the videos of planes that were still coming into California yesterday that give you an aerial shot of what's going on, and you could see the devastation. Those are the real videos right there.
The Bert Show.